All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here and for your patience. As always, I'll start this where we are with our public safety and violence metrics in the city as of this morning. Homicides are down 34% compared to last year. Non-fatal shootings are down 33%. Carjackings are down 16%. Auto thefts are down 12%. Total violent crime is down 10%, and property crime is down 5%. That, of course, in particular to the violence reductions, are on top of the historic reductions that we saw in 2023. This is meaningful progress, and we've seen these decreases consistently throughout the year, but there is still a lot of work to do, and we'll be doing that work the way that we have done it each and every day in our administration, and that is comprehensively in collaboration with law enforcement, with community violence intervention, with the community members themselves, and all of our partners across government to continue to drive down violence in Baltimore. And that is particularly top of mind as we approach the mid-year point of 2024 and the anniversary of the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, which we are planning to gather with the community next week for a day of healing and remembrance. With that, I will jump into a few things to uplift before we go into questions. First, and I'm going to say this very slowly, beginning July the 1st, penalties for parking tickets will be reinstituted. You may recall, or perhaps you've gotten a few yourself to know, that since the height of the pandemic, the late fees and penalties for people who refuse to pay their outstanding tickets have been paused. We are bringing it back. You've had long enough. This is a critical step, which we discussed at the beginning of this year's budget process, and one that helped us close the gap. I know this will be a change for everyone, so we're taking steps that make sure that everyone gets the adequate notification. There are notifications on the online payment portal and in all paper bills related to the impacted ticket, which have been going out for several weeks. We'll put that on top of we'll also do that on social media so that everyone knows. So again, the fees will return come July 1st. We have paused them for a long time, and now we are unpausing them. Second, I want to highlight and uplift something that I'm always excited about, Director Moore, and that is the return of Charm City Games. Every year, Baltimore holds a youth-focused Olympic-style sporting competition that brings people across Baltimore to compete. I think we got to add a 40 and over division next year, Mr. Director. This year, it will be extra fun as it happens against the backdrop of the actual Olympic Games, which we all look forward to every 4 years, especially those of us in the track and field community. Charm City Games is a great opportunity to showcase our young athletes and teams as they compete in several different sports, including basketball, soccer, and track and field. This year, Rec and Parks is adding a new sport to the mix, baseball. Young people ages 11 to 15 compete in various team sports. So we're asking teams to join us for a week of action-packed sports competition across the city. Registration opens up on July the 7th on our Rec and Parks website, which is an easy one to find. This event kicks off with our opening ceremony on Sunday, August 11th, outside of City Hall on the War Memorial Plaza, and then the games begin Monday, August the 12th, running through Saturday, August the 17th. So, Baltimore, let's support this effort. Let's connect our communities, get our young people to sign up as we connect our communities through competition. And coaches, if you think you have the team to beat, come out and prove it. Now, as our last announcement before we get the question, is today's biggest. Earlier this morning, Mayors for Guaranteed Income released the initial interim impact report for Baltimore's Guaranteed Income pilot program. For a quick refresher, especially since some of you were not in the press pool when we started this, 3 years ago, I signed on to join Mayors for Guaranteed Income. 2 years ago, in 2022, we launched our Guaranteed Income pilot, the Baltimore Young Family Success Fund. To support that program, I allocated $4.8 million of our ARPA funds to provide 200 young parents with an unconditional monthly cash payment of $1,000 for 2 years. We did that to provide financial relief for their families and stabilize their households. We're nearing the end of that 2-year pilot, with 23 of those 24 payments having been made, and the last one coming in July. This guaranteed income pilot is about allowing families to use their resources for their most pressing needs, whatever they determine those to be, rather than us dictating what their families need. We know that many of Baltimore's young, vulnerable families simply need the opportunity to thrive, but often don't have the resources to help make that happen. These families may be struggling, but this program invests in them and gives them the resources they need to tackle the challenges that they face. Which brings us to today's report. Part of the program includes the work of our evaluation partner, ABT and Associates, conducting the randomized controlled trial, and the report they released today is a product of their results looking at the first year of the program. This interim report finds that these families are doing better than the control group 1 year into the pilot. Researchers found differences in income, education, housing, and employment. Incomes increased for our participants. At the beginning of the study, our participants and control group members had similar household incomes. By the 6 months follow-up survey, participants' household incomes were nearly double the control group members' household incomes, $26,000 to $14,000. After 12 months, a participant household incomes remain higher than the control group's household incomes. Receiving guaranteed income helped some families move into more independent living situations. At the time of application into the program, 39% of participants lived with friends or family, and 52% of them rented. At 6 months, the percentage of members living with friends or family had fallen to 25%, and the percentage of renting had increased to 67%, a change that was statistically different from the control group. This difference persisted through the 12-month mark. We also saw that 12 months into the program, the percentage of participants that reported applying to college or trade school was 27%, while only 13% of the control group did so. At the midpoint of this pilot, we see that our participants show higher rates of employment, higher annual incomes, are more likely to be living independently, and more likely to apply for colleges or trade schools than the control group. You all get tired of hearing me say this, but women lie, men lie. The results in these numbers do not. This is a pilot program, but everything in this data, these data points to the power of guaranteed income to improve the stability of families. As we look towards the final payment in our 24th month program, going out to our participants next month, our nonprofit administrator, Cash Campaign of Maryland. Thank you, Tania, for being here, and for Cash's deep partnership and the way that you guys care for these families. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Is working closely with the families we are supporting and offboarding, and continue to connect them to wraparound services so that they don't see the progress they're making with the program. And our evaluation partner is continuing their work. This report specifically looks at the midway point of the program, and I'm eager to see what the impact is shown when the full evaluation is complete. We know these programs in all forms and fashion work, and it's my hope that down the line we are able to continue and expand this. And it's important to note that it's not just our program. Mayors for a Guaranteed Income works with a number of cities around the country on similar programs, and I know that many of my brother and sister mayors have seen similar successes. We all pretty much intentionally choose to focus on different parts of the population, so that we want to make the case to our partners in D.C. that this should be a national thing. And when the Biden administration and Congress expanded the child tax credit in 2021, giving millions of families monthly $250 to $300 checks for 6 months, child poverty fell to the lowest level on record. All this to say again that guaranteed income works. It can be and should be and will be, I'm going to speak it into existence, part of the solution to end poverty for good in this country. I hope you all take a look at the report released today and help us tell the story of this progress that these families are making. And with that, we will open it for questions.
Gonna start with that in the middle.
I'll pass for now.
Okay.
You say pass? That's fine. That's the first time ever.
What would you say to skeptics of the program, and what is the outlook for making something like this longer lasting or maybe even permanent?
I'd say what the skeptics should look at is the number. Tyler, you weren't here in the fine news organization that you work for would never ask a question like that. But folks were saying some very hateful things, whether this was another welfare program or we're going to be creating welfare queens, and the things that we know had never been true, but that kind of stuff that has been said throughout the history of this country when you're talking about helping our most in need residents and neighbors. But I said then that I knew what the folks were going to spend it on. We knew that they were going to spend it on housing and food and transportation, the things that they need to be able to provide for their families. And you can see that in these numbers that they did just that. They didn't go out and blow this money. They went out and used it to help their families be in a better position. And we can do that, not just here. It wasn't just done here in Baltimore, but if you look at all the Mayors for Guaranteed Income pilots around the country, right, you will see similar successes. And it's important, again, to note that those successes are happening with different parts of population. I chose young families. Some folks choose folks who are experiencing homelessness. We are all picking different parts of vulnerable populations to make the case to our friends in DC to show that this happened, because folks forget that we were that close to having a guaranteed income in this country. And it was actually Richard Nixon who almost did it as the president of the United States. So we have to get away from looking at this as a partisan issue with all these dog whistles and talk about we being the wealthiest country in the history of the world and how we can provide for our most needy the same way that we provide aid to countries around around the world, sorry.
That's right.
Unpass, Adam?
After Tyler.
But the outlook for making it permanent or longer lasting?
So these were always meant to be pilot, all right? Look, I know that my near and dear friend, Mayor Tubbs, would say that the point of this is for us to not have this all be on the backs of city governments. The point of this is to have the United States government, the government that leads the most powerful and wealthiest nation in the world, right? For us to be able to do this for our residents across the country. Now, whether we figure out a way to continue one here in Baltimore for a period of time, that story will still be told in the near future.
I just want to make sure I'm following on the possibilities of a longer-term program. Is there any sort of thought towards, locally funding a more permanent program, or is your thinking that this would have to happen at the federal level?
I think that as we wrap this up and we go through the evaluation and look at that, I think, Adam, that's the kind of questions that myself and we have a panel of groups, the kind of things that we're going to be looking at. Like, is this something like this sustainable for us to do for groups for periods of time around the city for moving forward throughout time? But I'm going to say again that, remember, when you look at MGI, we all are making this case to make the data, right, to make the numbers work for our folks in D.C., because this should be a national thing. It should not fall on the backs of local or state governments.
Good.
Only one Emily today. It's just you.
Shifting gears a little bit, last week, CSA, a developer with rights to Poppleton, notified the city that they believe that the city is in breach of contract related to the attempted cancellation of that deal. So, if we are looking at the possibility of litigation here, or especially protracted litigation, I guess what in your eyes is the cost to Poppleton if we continue to see delays? If this takes another 3-4 years, can that neighborhood sustain that?
Well, I think that what I'll say is, I won't talk about any pending litigation, but Emily, what I'll say is this. Since that letter went out, I've talked to people from Poppleton, and all I've heard was thank you. Because we have to remember that you're talking about something that initially started to happen when I was in high school or college, and I'm 40 years old. Yeah, right. So it's been a long time, and we stand by the letter, and we'll work through all the legal things as we move forward.
La Cité did sue the city in 2012. Unfortunately, the city lost at that point. How do you feel about the city standing at this point, potentially going into another dispute with them?
I'm confident in our standing.
Good. Tachi?
So going back to the pilot program, will the city track how participants do after the program?
I think there's a period, right? Go ahead, Ellen.
The evaluation partner does a survey 6 months after the program, and then the final report will be published after that.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Anybody back? One back here.
Mr. Mayor, can you comment on BOPA and the contract with the city?
I think it's an important thing, right? I think that when you think about arts and culture in the city of Baltimore, and that we're at a much better point than we were last year. We know that we're going to have the fireworks coming up, and Artscape is coming up. Is a critical thing for us to make sure that we continue to have an organization that is leading for us in arts and culture, but to do that in partnership with the city and our residents. And I think when you think about all the kind of events that we had here, we're just coming off another huge successful AFRAM, even though it's very hot last weekend, right? When you think about that, when you think about the things that are happening, we had a sold-out concert of T-Pain at the Pier 6 last night. Big 3 basketball is coming. I think I'm going to do a tryout on Saturday at the CFG Bank, shoot some 4-pointers to show them who really has the deep shot. But we know the Orioles, despite our 5-game win streak, which we're going to get off of tonight, we're seeing so many people come into the city for events, right? Whether it's a concert, whether it's a comedy show, whether it's a festival, whether it's a sporting event, I think we should be proud that we're in a city where we can have that, right? Where we could have a now growing National Basketball League coming to your city the same day that you have the Orioles playing a game. We want those kind of things to happen, and when it comes to arts and culture, BOPA is a big part of that.
Deputy Mayor Fox in the back. Yeah, that's good. We'll go back to Tyler.
Just for TV purposes and lighting's a lot better, can you reiterate and maybe elaborate on the fireworks display that's going to be a tribute to the victims of the Keepers collapse, what that's going to entail?
Well, we don't want to give away too many secrets of it's not just the fireworks, it's also the drone show. We want to really honor those that we lost, those that worked so hard to try to recover those that we lost, those public safety officers, everyone from Unified Command who's worked to get us there, and really not just show and honor them, but use it as another opportunity to uplift the greatness and the spirit of Baltimore that came around and wrapped around our whole community through that process. And what better time to do anything than on July 4th for everyone to see as we not just celebrate the country, celebrate Baltimore as well.
So just to piggyback back on your response, you said you're confident in the city's standing regarding La Cité. I guess I'm curious what's different now versus 2012 when they sued you in the city law.
Well, I won't go into that, Emily, because the wonderful city solicitor will not allow me to do that. It's not advisable. I'll just say that we believe we're in a strong standing, and we stand by what the direction that the city is taking.
This might be for cash campaign, but one more on guaranteed income. Can you just speak to what kinds of guardrails or structures are in place to help participants now that they're no longer going to be receiving these monthly checks? Kind of to offering, I guess.
So a part of our offboarding process, we had a few different phases. One was one-on-one support, where we had a chance to talk to participant and make sure that we're tailoring the resources to their individual needs. We did a round of financial education classes, which is something that the Cash Campaign already does. We're doing benefits counseling, and then we're connecting them to all of the outside resources that Cash does not offer. So working with our partners, working with the advisory committee, and then most importantly, we have a lot of them who are now joining us in the policy and advocacy space, so making sure that we're lifting up their voices in Annapolis as well.
All right.
Tachi or anybody else?
Thank you, everybody.